Poland. I want to get into the Cohen thing though, because there was a couple things that I missed last night when we were doing a deep dive on him. Um, this was one. Remember where he said that? He said that Trump was not a sexual creature or something like that when this whole Epstein thing was blowing up at first. Now he claimed before in 2020 that Trump oogled his 15-year-old daughter in his memoir. Let's see. When Mr. Cohen told Mr. Trump that the girl was his daughter, the president followed with a question. When did she get so hot? He asked, according to Cohen's book. Mr. Trump was married to First Lady Melania Trump at the time. The White House had dismissed Mr. Cohen's book as fan fiction, pointing to the disgraced lawyer's conviction for lying to Congress about his pursuit of a Trump Tower. His pursuit of a Trump Tower in Moscow? Okay, trying to build one there during Mr. Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. So, of course, yeah, he's a felon because he's a felon for you. He's still definitely a shady dude, but so yeah, not only that though, I found another really interesting article about how he threatened a Miss USA contestant and claimed to ruin people's lives for Trump. Maybe I can. Let's see if I could. I was trying to jump to it quick, but when Michael Cohen was confronted by a reporter on a different subject, Cohen referenced his win over Sheena Monin. Oh yeah, here it is. Do you want to destroy your life? It's going to be my privilege to serve it to you on a silver platter like I did that idiot from Pennsylvania in Miss USA, because I think you're dumber than she is, Cohen said. Yeah, this guy is a lunatic. And he responded to the accusations today of everything that went down. And really, it's kind of funny in
And
some
welcome back
ways
to the and welcome back.
because uh he's still like doing this whole he starts out the statement by talking about how he's on some journey to 1 million subscribers. And he's supposed to be like responding to a controversy, and then he very, very carefully avoids talking about Epstein at all. So I'm just gonna play a minute or two of this because it's funny, and then the rest of it he ends up completely lashing out and going crazy. So I'm not gonna play too much of it after that because it gets exhausting. And then I'll jump into the testimony.
Back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 1 million subscribers. Now, look, as you all know, a lot has changed over the course of this weekend, and I do want to address it all, including actually a reversal in our momentum, in our journey to the 1 million subscribers. And what started it all? Well, apparently, it's a post that I put out on Friday, a post that was personal to me, for me, and about me. To those of you who have been following this journey, I have talked about and I have criticized
all of these like super rich people that end up having to make one of these statements. They always just end up lashing out and looking really crazy, unless they play a ukulele or something, you know.
the DOJ. I have criticized Tish James. I have criticized Alvin Bragg. I have criticized what I refer to as the Department of Injustice. And when I wrote that post, I felt pressured and coerced. That's how I felt. Now, those words, they appear to have caused an avalanche of comments that are being hurled my way. Some thanking me for speaking up because they too have seen the Department of Injustice in action, and others with some of the most.
See, there's a lot to say about the Department of Justice right now in this regard and the things that they're doing wrong. And it's mostly in regards to, not prosecuting people in ICE that do things wrong, or not releasing the Epstein files, or going after anybody that Trump wants them to. So, but instead, he wants to talk about his personal shit many years ago when he went away for Trump. And now he's trying to say something that makes Trump look good and supports his cause, which looks super suspicious, especially in light of this recent revelation where his lawyers told prosecutors, the former Department of Justice, that he had information about Trump and Epstein.
Vile, disgusting comments that I think I've received so far. And that says a lot. People have used my post for many reasons, mostly selfish ones. But it's all personal feelings for me. You see, I never intended my words to come across as being helpful for Trump. My trauma, my anguish, as I talk about in my Substack of today, it's mine. It belongs to me. And you know what I find the most ironic? Something I again talked about in my Substack of today. It's ironic.
This is where he starts getting unhinged, and I'll just let it go for a minute. But I just I thought it was kind of amusing how he handled this, and I think that this is probably the beginning of an extended crash out, because I think he's implicated big time. He was literally the dude's fixer. I mean, come on now.
What's ironic is,
And as we have discussed before, he hunted down Katie Johnson, one of the accusers that was trafficked by Epstein and victimized by Trump, and she disappeared. We don't know what's happened to her since the first administration.
because all of those of the loudest antagonists that have been posting and writing and saying things about me have risked absolutely nothing in their lives, and nothing even coming close to what I have. Which one of them appeared 7 times before congressional committees? Who?
This is so funny because he's talking about the times that he was going in front of these things because he was shady and he was doing shady shit and he had to answer for it, and he's acting like he's fighting some crusade. That's why I found this so amusing.
Who of them faced 2 grand juries and stood as the key witness in 2 trials that shook a presidency? Who? Not them. Me. It was my heart on fire, my soul exposed, my family on edge, my emotional health shredded, my finances decimated, my nights when I should have been sleeping peacefully, haunted by fear and worse, anxiety. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't outsource that risk. No, I lived it. I breathed it. And now I'm judged by those who have contributed abso-freaking-lutely nothing, who have never.
So yeah, he just goes off at this point, and you can imagine like the next 5 minutes are basically a continuation of his grievances. But I just thought it was really hilarious how he started out with, let's get our million subscribers, and also yeah, I did this crusade through the courts when I did crimes for Trump and had to answer for him. So this, to give you a little bit of an intro on this testimony here, it looks like she recorded her own testimony and then is sharing it now with the world. She is not in the circle of the main survivors that we're used to hearing about, the ones that are usually on the news, and apparently there is some drama, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word, between a lot of them, and she kind of explains that. It was kind of shocking for me to hear some of that stuff. She even claims that the picture that Virginia had with Prince Andrew is fake, although she doesn't claim that Andrew was innocent. I listened to bits and pieces, so we'll get into the whole thing here. I always like to do the deep dive live. So let's get into this, and I'll try to pay better attention to the chat today because there was a lot of good stuff in there last night that was hard to keep up with. So yeah, let's get started here. I think I am going to start at like 5 minutes in though, because there's a lot of intro stuff. So like that it, you know, just intro Zoom call stuff. I mean, you know.
Good, thank you. I appreciate it because I mean I've been trying to be heard for 4 or 5 years at this point. I mean I think I even started speaking up in 2019 when I was starting to put puzzle pieces together. So I really appreciate that this moment has finally manifested.
Absolutely.
Let me know if there's any issues with volume. You shouldn't really be able to hear the people on the other side, but you should be able to hear her really well. So if the volume's an issue, let me know.
Yeah, just let me know what you guys, where you want me to start if you guys have leading questions.
Corey, did you have some questions off the top, or did you want me to take it?
I will let you all take it since you're more handling the actual investigation, and then I can add you any follow-ups and go from there. But
Okay.
just, you know, echoing everything Trinity said, we really, really appreciate your time and speaking with us and bravery coming forward.
Thank you.
And just really glad that we're able to connect.
Thank you. My husband is here also. We've been married for 21 years at this point. So he has heard the unraveling of this. He was here when the royal family called me. He was here, you know, I've been in the paper for certain things. I'm trying to think of any other crazies that you've been around. I mean, it's all been insane.
It's just, you're one of those people that things happen to.
Yeah.
Running into
Yeah, I'm
so many
trying to
angles
figure
around.
out how to
I just met
turn it
Stormy
up.
Daniels like 3 nights ago too, so we were comparing notes. So now
I
we're-
think it gets a little bit better. I think the beginning of it is a little bit quieter, but I'm going to try to figure out how to turn it up. Let's see.
Insane
I know,
stuff.
it is
That's
insane.
all.
I'm used to this. I have had weird shit happening my whole life. So I'm very used to this. I feel really excited to get to this point that we're at right now with you guys.
Shaking.
Yeah, my husband's shaken. My nerves are used to this, but I'm so glad that we're finally at this point that we can hopefully get to next levels. Because it's frightening even as a citizen to just watch all of this crumble, and then also someone who was raised in faith to see the Book of Revelation like unfolding.
And a mother.
And a mother, yeah, that too. So yeah, but did you guys have questions? I have like a printout. I think I gave you guys some notes and I sent you guys some evidence.
Did that
It's not
turn it
all the
up?
Evidence, obviously, I have a ton of other audience
Let me know if that turned it up at all.
evidence. One of the things I did want to mention as well, that I didn't put in the notes or the pictures, was when I did speak up, when I first started putting 2 and 2 together, when I recognized Ghislaine Maxwell in the news, and that she was that woman that approached me at the gym when I was like 14 or 15 years old. I spoke up about that. I made the media about that. And then when I saw Epstein's house in the papers, when they were finally like condemning, you know.
All right, that's weird. Even though I turned it up on my computer, I got to figure out how to turn it up through the program. This is the main file though, so I'll see what I can do. Let's see.
Here in the house down something that I was like, oh my gosh, I've been to that house, I've been to that dock, I've been to that boat slip, bless you. And so I was starting to put pieces together, and people were telling me to reach out to Virginia Giuffre and Maria Farmer, that they were spearheading this, and they attacked me brutally the same way they did Rena O. I helped Rena O even get the evidence against her. I messaged her and I was like, oh, they're bashing you, they just did that to me, you might want to come, you know, on Twitter and defend yourself, or at least collect evidence. And now she has been suing Virginia Giuffre. And I don't know if you've read the articles, but she was afraid she was going to be losing her inheritance to Rena. So there's a huge cover up, as you obviously know. There's been people who have been assigned to be mouthpieces who are proven liars, fabricators, traffickers. Virginia was proven with the Prescott judge files that were released I think a year ago, that she was 18 when she trafficked 14-year-old Carolyn. She was an adult who's been manipulating the system. And then, like I said, people were encouraging me to reach out. She had an anti-trafficking.
Did anybody catch, like, did she, I don't think she said a name for who was suing Virginia Giuffre. Yeah, I'm looking in there, Rowdy. It's kind of sparse. Oh, wait, no. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty wild that some other survivors are suing Virginia Giuffre. And I've noticed that, like, with Julie Bryant and stuff, there's a lot of hostility between her and a couple of other ones, and it makes you wonder what's going on. But I'm sure when people have been through that kind of thing, it's like it's another victim that's suing her. So it's like one of the victims suing another one.
Organization. I have screenshots where she publicly called me a liar. I never met anyone. And then Maria Farmer made a whole bunch of terrifying art of me, mocking me. She told people I was a meth head. I have never done meth in my life. My nickname for her, she told everyone I was Methy Molly. It was terrifying, and it went on for three or 4 years. And
All through COVID.
so that was very, yeah, all through COVID. So that was very distressing as well, that I tried reaching out to an organization.
Did that help at all? I turned the volume up on my mic, but I don't know if that did it for that, because that's one of the only levelers that I got.
And then was targeted by their mouthpiece, Virginia. And also, I reached out to Julie K. Brown. Actually, she reached out to me. Julie K. Brown from the Miami Herald reached out to me, and she said she would not print my story unless Virginia approved of it, which I had never met Virginia. I believe Virginia knows my recruiter. It was the same time, it was 2001, and that's when she was in that circle as well, and it was Palm Beach. So I'm guessing she tried to publicly discredit me because my recruiter and her would likely know each other. They're the same age. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well, that all of that's incredibly shady, and that, there was nowhere for me to speak. She elevated my voice at first because I posted about someone she didn't think was in the network, a billionaire, Ray Huizenga. His dad owned Blockbuster, Miami Dolphins. He tried to traffic me. He tried to take me out of the country when I was 17. And I have newspaper clippings. I have letters from him.
This was somebody that Jay Megan called out like a month or two ago, I think. This Blockbuster guy.
I have pictures. My dad was able to get like press and stuff like that. My mom was always writing to the papers and getting me the papers all throughout high school. So she retweeted that, and then when I started putting pieces together about Ghislaine Maxwell and all this stuff, they accused me of trying to crash their party and steal their fame and valor, and it was just wild. And I reached out to representatives about that. I reached out to so many people. I was just ignored. I ended up deleting my Twitter account because it was just so volatile over there. Maria Farmer kept making fake accounts with my name and attacking me, and I mean, it just got wild. It was incredibly scary.
And the last thing you're after is fame.
And the last thing I'm after is fame. Exactly right. I mean,
I'm trying to figure out what their motive is, like what the motive would be for that. Yeah.
I was an honors student. I was planning to go to law school. I was classically trained vocalist. And the whole reason none of that ended up happening was the year before I was trafficked to the Epstein, Trump, Maxwell party. I had been abducted and raped by a producer through an MTV event that I was scheduled to sing at as a plant. And he tried to take me to a business dinner to discuss opportunities. And he ended up abducting and bringing me to his house, luring me into his house, pinning me down and raping me. And I believe he recorded it because he then offered me singing work afterwards. He turned on and off his computer around the assault. And so I went inpatient into a hospital in Palm Beach a year later. I had flunked out of school at that point. I had pretended to graduate. I didn't know what to do. I was really freaked out. The whole reason I didn't call the police the night that he raped me is because when I got home, I showered, and I immediately showered all of the evidence off of me. It was not inside of me to my knowledge. And I showered off the exterior. I went online to Rain, the only website I knew at the time in the year 2000, and it said, do not shower. And I was gutted. I was devastated. I don't believe I got out of bed that entire weekend. And then I pretty much flunked out of school at that point. I was too scared to even go anywhere and pursue anything. And I pivoted from singing, entertainment, and law to I immediately started working in telecommunications just so I felt safe. I was working.
Yeah, I think the thing that's important to remember is that with how many people that he took advantage of throughout his life, there's like thousands of people, and they are all they're going to have different personalities. They're going to disagree with each other about things. And they're going to be all types of different people, you know what I'm saying? And then they're going to be people who've been traumatized as well. So it's a lot to kind of understand, you know?
As a rep at AT&T Wireless. And I mean, I immediately pivoted over to that. So a year later, I was having suicidal ideations and I really just wanted to die from the anniversary. I didn't even realize it was the anniversary either. And I went inpatient to a hospital, and it was Columbia Hospital in Palm Beach, and my roommate there was a recruiter for them. So I went inpatient to try to tell on the guy who abducted and raped me, a cop that had abducted me from a high school party in high school. Again, I was an honor student. He offered to take me home because I wasn't drinking, and I thought my dad would get a kick out of a police officer bringing me home.
Yeah, and then this is like in the I believe this is in the same area where Epstein was, and she's saying that a cop was involved in this in an earlier incident of abuse. So he had the cops, I'm not sure, paid off or some kind of deal with them. So I don't know.
And he took me to his house, dragged me into his house, and assaulted me. He assaulted me digitally, but he handcuffed me. It was terrifying. He wanted to date me. One of my friends kind of set the whole thing up. So another trafficking situation. And I was also raped when I was 9 years old. So I was trying to report all of these people at that hospital. And then my roommate ended up being a recruiter for Epstein, Maxwell, and Trump. So as soon as I got into the room, she said, "Don't tell them anything. They'll hold it against you. They'll use it against you." And I was like, "Who is they?" Because my family was never involved. And my recruiter, Lisa Ghislaine Villeneuve.
I think this part coming up is when she talks about Trump and Epstein as being a part of the same kind of criminal organization.
She was born into it, from what I learned from her. So we became friendly in the place. She said, "Don't trust anyone here." She said, "Don't trust anyone here. The orderlies will drug and rape you in your sleep." The first night I was there, I awoke to an orderly on top of me, drugging me, and
That's actually an extremely common pattern among Epstein's victims, is that they are people who had suffered a lot of abuse early in their life, um, and many of them from family members and stuff like that. And in that situation, especially, like, I think Virginia's book did describe very well how easy it was for her to fall into those things when she grew up in that kind of environment. And she didn't have the defenses for people like that. And it was very easy to, for them to be manipulated, and that's kind of the way that she described it. So that doesn't surprise me, that part.
he said he was taking blood work when I was already asleep. And since this was the first time I was ever in a facility like this to get help, I didn't know any protocol of what I should be expecting. But I did wake up to him literally on top of me, my arm in a tourniquet, and him taking blood while I was sleeping. And then he said he was giving me something to help me sleep. I believe he raped me. I found another survivor from that same place who has identified the same man. When she was 15, she said he raped her. So I've just been putting all these pieces together, and it's just been horrifying. So then Lisa and I became friendly. She said, "You seem really cool." And then I told her a lot about my sexual abuse. Obviously, when I was there, I was divulging it to her and entrusting it to her. And
And yeah, that was the other thing, is the recruiters would often look for that, and Epstein told them that when you're talking to your friends and you're talking to other girls, any of them that reveal to you that they have been through something like this, then you bring them to me, essentially. That was an explicit request.
living up in Orlando at the time, and she was still down in Lake Worth. And my dad lived on Singer Island at the time, so they were really, really close to each other. So once I got out of the hospital, she was calling me and telling me, "You should come down and hang out." So it was getting to be around the holidays. So I met her shortly after. I met her in, I think it was like September again, because like I said, it was the anniversary of that abduction. And the party that I went to was shortly after 9/11. So just to put it in perspective of what the timings all were. So we became friendly. I went over to her house. She had a gigantic mansion and she lived in the master bedroom and she was only 19. And I believe at this point I was 22. And I remember asking her, how do you have the master bedroom? Like it had giant balconies, a giant bathroom, it had a fireplace, it had a wet bar. And she's 19 years old with 2 older brothers and parents. And she told me that she outranked her parents. And I didn't know what that meant. My family referred to her as Loony Lisa, if that puts anything into perspective of how much we believed this girl or just thought she was a fanatic. I wasn't sure what her deal was. Now I see that she was born into it, and a lot of things she was telling me were truths or half-truths, that it was not all just made up. So I was over at her house one time, and we were hanging out. We'd hung out a couple times, and
It seems like the abduction is related to her being involved with Epstein. With the way that she's telling the story, it's not entirely clear, but that's what I'm gathering.
she said, Molly, I have this guy, Kurt Schmidt, who wants to meet you. He is very interested in you. She said he had seen my modeling portfolio. And I took that as a red flag because I didn't have a public modeling portfolio that anyone could see. I had done just a little bit of modeling because I was more of a singer than anything else. I have physical disabilities, so I'm limited in what the things I can do. I was born with genital hip dysplasia. I've had my hips replaced, my knees reconstructed just so I can walk. So I really was not doing the modeling. It was too physical on my body. And my dad really did not want me to do modeling. My dad was born in Hollywood to a radio tycoon, and he purposely did not raise us there because it was not a safe place. He knew about the industry. He's the one who protected me from that billionaire in high school that tried to take me out of the country. My dad said, there's not a chance in hell a grown-ass billionaire is taking my underage daughter into international waters.
I found this guy, actually, it's on her Substack, Kurt T. Schmidt. I couldn't find just by searching his name, but this is on her Substack. The offer came through Kurt Schmidt, the son of a Campbell's Soup executive family. He was a heroin addict living off his family. Okay. So yeah, this is the guy currently on the board of directors of something. Could look him up in a minute, but I wanted to get a I'll leave this page up because it seems like it has some of the people that she's going to mention.
And I remember that statement verbatim, and it was one of the first times I'd heard about human trafficking other than my modeling agents. So I had 3 agents when I was in high school: Boca Talent, Ada Gardner, and Sarah Parker Model and Talent Agency, and all of them told me to stay away from Elite, which was owned by Trump, and stay away from Casablanca, that those were human trafficking organizations. They were catfishing. They were selling.
Did you just hear that? I'm going to back that up a minute. Is that stay away from Casablanca, stay away from Trump. They're human trafficking organizations. Right here.
Verbatim, and it was one of the first times I'd heard about human trafficking other than my modeling agents. So I had 3 agents when I was in high school: Boca Talent, Ada Gardner, and Sarah Parker Model and Talent Agency, and all of them told me to stay away from Elite, which was owned by Trump, and stay away from Casablanca, that those were human trafficking organizations. They were catfishing. They were selling. They basically said they were targeting families who didn't know better into taking classes and trafficking and recruiting. And because I was asking, I want to, all these things look legit. Like they're connected with Vogue, they're connected with this, they're connected with CoverGirl, they're connected with this. And my agents would say, those are all like fabricated events that they make. They're all internal events that they make. So she was warning me to stay away from all of those, that was human trafficking and catfishing and exploitation and money.
That makes a lot of sense to me because it was definitely an open secret at the time that Casablancas and Jean-Luc Brunel and even Trump and Epstein, that they were all people that you didn't want their daughters around. Even one of Trump's wives said to one of these models and her mother, I think at one time, "Keep your daughters away from my husband."
laundering. So anyway, so I was over at Lisa's house that one day, and she tells me out of nowhere that her friend Kurt Schmidt likes me and wants to meet me. And some of the words that she used were, she said something like he's currently in a relationship, but she's a stick in the mud and he's not enjoying his girlfriend experience. Those are the words she used, girlfriend experience, which I'd never heard those words. And they raised a red flag for me at the time. Now I know. I think you guys saw some of the evidence. There was Trump escorts, and it mentions GFE, girlfriend experiences. All of that is available on the Wayback Machine, and also
That's another interesting one. I don't know if I've heard that one before, that there is on the Wayback Machine evidence that Trump was running an escort service. That's pretty wild.
people have confirmed that they saw it at the time, especially like dancers at clubs and stuff. They were like, "Oh my God, we were very aware of that website. It's very real." So you can look it up on the Wayback Machine. It's still up there, and you can find all that information and how it's all just been repeated onto Mystique Companions. Now it's out of China. So she said to me, Kurt is not enjoying his girlfriend. She's a stick in the mud. And I said, well, why doesn't he just break up with her? And she said, they have a contract. So this is the thing people aren't talking about, are these fake contracts. And this is what I was offered. So she said
I haven't heard much about the contracts either.
She said he was complaining that the girlfriend he had was a stick in the mud and that he wasn't enjoying his girlfriend experience. And I thought those were very weird words. And but I'm also partly a journalist. I was on the debate team in high school. I wrote for the newspaper, and I also did the morning news. I was the morning news anchor, and I also did some of that in college as well. So that was part of my tract, was to investigate things, and I'm just fascinated with these things, especially surviving rape. When I was 9, I became very aware of what was happening under our noses and what it all led to. So I'm over at her house and I'm just taking mental notes, and she says she wants me to meet him. And so I agreed to, and because I wanted to see what it was all about. And so she brought me to the Epstein party on Palm Beach Island. She picked me up, and we went to Clematis Street. I don't know if you know where any of this is, but Palm Beach Island, right before the island is.
Melania has a contract. I wouldn't be surprised. When Donald started his first administration, he had close down Trump models. He then opened up Trump Escort in China, which is still running. Wow. I did not know that.
Downtown West Palm.
I'm from the area.
Okay, perfect. So so we stop at the end of Clematis Street. We're just about to go over the bridge, and she picks up this guy, Bobby Cox, and he gets in the car and he gets in the back seat, and she has a darkened black SUV, completely blacked out. And he gets in the back seat and he introduces himself and he says, "Hi, I'm Bobby Cox." He says, "I'm a model scout." And I go, "Oh, I'm a model." And then Lisa goes, "He's not a model scout, he's a pimp." And I'm like, I don't know how those are interchangeable. I've never heard of that in my professional career, that those things are interchangeable. So I wasn't sure what was going on, if they were just buddies and just pushing my buttons for like sensationalism. So I just kind of let that slide. And so we get over to Epstein's, we pull into the driveway. We actually ended up going in through the gate and going right into the backyard. We did not go in the front door. So we parked and he's got like a half circle. We parked over to the right of the half circle and went in through the gate. He had a gate over there that went into his backyard, and we made a beeline straight for the dock. And that is where Kurt was, on the dock, on a boat. He was living in exile in the Atlantic Ocean. He was a heroin junkie. And basically what Lisa was telling me was he needed a good girl. He needed a good cover girl to get him off drugs, to make him look suitable, and to get him his inheritance so that he could be employed with Campbell's Soup.
This was the guy that we were just looking at.
So basically it was like a glorified babysitting job. And she was telling me that he would get $100,000 a year to start, and I would get 10% of that. And I was like, well, that's no money. And that doesn't make any, like, that's not even $1,000 a month. And so it was calculating in my head just really quickly of, okay, so I would have to have other Johns, other boyfriends in order to actually make my ends meet. So I was just taking notes and just playing along in the sense of an undercover journalist.
I don't know, like, that sounds weird to me, but I don't wanna question it, you know what I mean? That is interesting. Melania's dad was a high-ranking member in the Communist Party in Slovenia. Yeah, I don't like the whole, like, "Oh, I just didn't know, I was just being undercover." I don't wanna question it, but let's listen.
Trying to get to the bottom of these things. And so we, trying to hold on one second. With Kurt. So I'll just keep going. So, oh, that's what it was. They said that he was living in exile on his parents' yacht in the Atlantic Ocean. That he was basically kicked out of the house and he was living there, and he was a heroin junkie. And that I guess whatever his girlfriend experience was to try to get him on the good track, she was too much of a stick in the mud and he wasn't having any fun. I took it out. I thought he was gay, just for reference, and I still think he might be. I think he just needed a beard or a cover or whatever these things are. So I'm on the yacht. I get on the yacht. I'm on there with Lisa. Kurt is there. He has his shirt off and he's air guitaring. He's very tan, obviously laying out in the sun all the time. He has white, bleached blonde hair and a zit on his forehead covered in orange makeup. And right, what a looker. So I get on the yacht and he's air guitaring and just being such a weirdo. And he's in his like 30s and I was in my 20s. I mean, I don't know how old he was. I'd have to go look up how old he was exactly. But I was 22 and he was older than me. And he was ignoring me. And I told Lisa, I go, I don't think he's interested in me. And she goes, no, he's really interested in you. And then so she was trying to get us to talk. It was Bobby Cox was on the boat. Kurt Schmidt was on the boat. Lisa Villeneuve was on the boat and I was on the boat. So it was just the four of us. So we're hanging out and he's not speaking to me at all. He was just really weird. So at one point, Lisa brings me over to a drink cart and says, Molly, come over here. I want to talk to you. So I go over to the drink cart and she starts making me a drink, which I don't drink. So, and I don't drink for this reason. I was drugged. Do you know Enigma? Have you ever heard of Enigma, Tori?
It seems like it was something that happened extremely frequently to these models that they were drugged. It was like, anytime that these events happened, they were drugging people.
West Palm Beach, the gay club. It's been there forever.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I was drugged there. That's why I was bringing it up. I was drugged there by just a glass of water. So I don't my drinks are covered. No one's allowed to make me a drink. I do not accept drinks. The guy who lured me into his house and pinned me down and raped me offered me a drink as soon as I got in the house and I declined it. So Lisa was making me a drink and she called me over to the drink cart while Kurt and Bobby Cox were hanging out. And I go over to the drink cart and she goes, so what do you think of Kurt? And I go, I think he's a goofball. And she said, well, he really likes you. And I said, well, he has a very funny way of showing it. He hasn't said 2 words to me. And so she starts making me a drink and she goes to hand it to me and I go, I don't drink. And then she started looking really concerned that she couldn't control me. And so then Kurt comes over to the drink cart and he goes, is she good? Is she cool? He goes, is she cool? And Lisa goes, no, she's not cool. And I said, yes, I am. I'm very cool. And then she says, no, he means for sex. And I said, ew, I just met you. And then he said, no, for Coke. I was going to offer you Coke. And then Lisa was like, no Coke. You're not allowed to have any Coke. So it was just a weird interaction. And so I got off the boat.
The description here, too, of how much of an authority some of the recruiters were to some of the recruitees, I feel like this is the first time that I'm hearing the relationship described like that, too.
I basically wanted to leave at that point and wanted to ditch them and just kind of walk around the party. I wanted to see what the party even was. I thought it was just a normal party in the area, especially with the holidays coming up. I wasn't sure what it was or what was going on there. So I got off the boat, I got to the dock, and there were men talking to groups of women, gorgeous models, beautiful people, younger and my age, all over the place. So that's why I wasn't sure what kind of party it was because of all of the age differences, but all of the men there seemed to be older, at least in their 20s and up. And so I infiltrated one conversation with these 2 models talking to this man in a suit, or in a suit. And I go over and I start talking to them, and I'm trying to like ignore Lisa at this point and ignore them because they've kind of freaked me out with the yacht shit. And she goes, Molly, you can't. Everyone's having their own private meetings, and you can't just infiltrate their conversations. They're directors, they're producers, they're model scouts, so this and that. So they're having their own private conversations, and I thought that was super duper weird because there were easily 100 people at this party. So everyone's having private meetings at this party outside the house, on the dock, next to the pool, all this stuff. So it was really weird and not making sense. So they pulled me away from those people and brought me over towards the house. I was outside the sliding glass door because I was telling Lisa, my hair is naturally curly. I'm a diva and I didn't mean to be, but it was poofing out. And I was like, Lisa, I want to go in the house. Like, I'm getting frizzy and sweaty. It's still hot in Florida at this time. And so she starts freaking out that I'm demanding to go inside the house. And she says, let me find out if you can go in. And again,
Yeah, like the relationship that she's describing and how much authority these recruiters have. One of the other things that she says is that many of the survivors who came forward first were people who were higher up in the organization, and they don't want people who were lower in the organization to be able to have a voice. That is one of the motives that I was able to kind of grasp from her about why there is this kind of divide.
and I'm like, what kind of party is this that I can't walk into someone's house? So she leaves me outside with Bobby Cox, right outside a sliding glass door. She goes inside and she says she has to talk to the madam of the house. And I can't remember if I thought she used the word madam, but then on top of it, Ghislaine, the way she was talking about it she was like foreign. So I wasn't sure if that was just a French title, that her name being madam. It wasn't making sense until obviously later. And then obviously it started making sense when she tried to traffic me to the next person, was talking about contracts and such. So I'm outside the house and Bobby Cox goes, so you didn't like Kurt, huh? And he goes, what kind of millionaire, billionaire are you interested in? And I'm not. So I told him, one with a foot in the grave, one that can't chase me down and rape me, one that can't hurt me. And he goes, oh, so you want an Anna Nicole Smith situation? And I said, yeah, find me one of those, thinking that that's not going to happen, that we're just talking shit. So I said, yeah, find me one of those. So Lisa then comes out at that moment and says, I'm allowed to come inside. And so I come into the house and I come into, I think we came through the kitchen and then we ended up in like the living room by the front door. And we were just standing there and Lisa said, don't go anywhere. She had to go, run around because she was a recruiter there. So she was working. So I'm standing there in like the middle of the by the doorway. And
that's a very good point, Ryder, that Virginia did say that Epstein and Maxwell facilitated a kind of catty divide between the girls, probably had elitism and infighting. I do remember that from the book now, that she said that they were always trying to divide them. And maybe some of those resentments lingered. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Behind me, there is a door open, a room open, and it's all red. It's red lights in there. Like they have the lamp it's got a red light on it and lamp shades. And it looked like a girl was sleeping on the bed and she looked young. She looked like a middle schooler. And that's why I thought maybe, right. And that's why I thought maybe, oh, this was a holiday party. Like this is people with their kids. And I just couldn't.
See, at this point, I would have thought that something was seriously wrong. And like I said, I don't want to put too much responsibility on somebody in that situation,
My head around what this party was. And then there were people in the room like making out around her and talking around her, and she was just sleeping there. And Lisa came over and shut the door really quickly and said, do not go into any rooms. These are private meetings. You are not allowed to go in them. And the way she acted really caught me off guard. It was very, very weird. So also, I think I found the girl who was in that room. She's been speaking up. Shia LaBeouf's twin sister was trafficked. And she was trafficked through Epstein's as well. And she said she was drugged many times and brought to.
This is the first time I'm hearing this one too, that Shia LaBeouf's sister trafficked by Epstein.
Red rooms. So I've been meeting a lot of people just speaking up and trying to connect dots of what this network does. But I mean, I know it sounds unbelievable, but I mean, here we are. This is where we're at. It sounds unbelievable, and it sounds unbelievable so that they can get away with it. That's how they get it. It's the cognitive dissonance. It's so unbelievable. We just shut off our brain and say that can't be happening, and they're having a grand old time because it's so easy for them to orchestrate, especially with our cognitive dissonance. So we're inside the house at this point. Lisa comes over, shuts that door, tells me not to go anywhere, don't go into any rooms.
Yeah, so it looks like this is disputed. Now I don't know. This is the first I'm hearing about it too. I'm seeing just this Reddit post with just people kind of talking trash. That doesn't mean that it's not true. But let's see. Not that we can always trust this, but Shia LaBeouf has no twin sister. Wick's 1988 birth claim contradicts facts. So it looks like there's a general sense of doubt about the woman who's claiming to be Shia LaBeouf's twin sister, that it's actually his twin sister. But we'll continue.
And then right at that moment, she walks away again. And then at that moment, Ghislaine Maxwell starts coming down a spiral staircase, which I can see it's like just right at the end of my vision. The door was here, and then the staircase was over here, and I was like here. So Ghislaine Maxwell starts coming down the stairwell, and I didn't recognize her at first because I didn't recognize her from when I met her when she was baiting me with Victoria's Secrets at the gym when I was 14 or 15. And so she's coming down the stairs, and she makes an announcement, and it's like, I want to say it's like 10 o'clock. It's not that late. And she makes an announcement. She says, ladies and gentlemen, we have been invited to Mar-a-Lago by a personal invitation of Donald Trump. Please take your things and let's head over to Mar-a-Lago, because obviously Mar-a-Lago is much, much bigger than Epstein's place. Epstein's place was.
She says something pretty crazy coming up, I believe, about how Mar-a-Lago seemed to be somewhat of a recruiting ground.
It's not that big. Lisa's place was bigger than Epstein's place. So everyone starts like going out the door and shuttling over there. And then Lisa comes up to me and I said, we're going to Mar-a-Lago. I'd never been. So I was really excited. And I thought this party was really weird, and maybe it was a little bit better over there. Maybe they had real drinks and like food and stuff. Like, it was just super weird. And so she goes, who said you could go to Mar-a-Lago? And at this moment, Ghislaine Maxwell was coming by me. She was walking by me, and I said, her. She said we could all go. And then Ghislaine Maxwell touched my arm and said, yes, you're all invited. Please join us. And then she was facilitating people walking out the door and getting like people shuttled over to Mar-a-Lago. And Lisa looks at me and she goes, Molly, you can't go. You're not invited. And I go, she just said everyone's invited. And she said, I'm trying to remember verbatim what she said, but she said, Molly, it's not safe. Oh, first she said, they're just looking for prostitutes. And I go, well, I don't think 100 people are prostitutes. And I don't think Donnie can, excuse my language, fuck all of us. And because again, I didn't know what she was talking about, nor did I believe I was in any kind of danger whatsoever. So I thought she was overreacting. I really wanted to go to Mar-a-Lago. And she goes, Molly, it gets rough quick. I'm trying to, did she say other things? My mind's a blank right now.
But yeah, I mean, there's clearly there's clearly something going on with Mar-a-Lago and Epstein. That's absolutely where Virginia came from. He was sending underage masseuses over there. Trump was sending underage masseuses over there until one of them freaked out and was assaulted and finally came forward. And if she didn't raise the issue, then it would have gone on even longer. And I don't think that he discontinued that service because of the kindness of his heart. He was probably just worried about getting busted.
So she said, we'll go home and look through Forbes magazine for more millionaires, billionaires to look at and pick out, like, and she said she was very much monitoring my food intake as well. She was always commenting on what I was eating and that I needed to lose.
This is she's put out these claims on her Substack before, but this is the testimony that she gave to the House Oversight Committee. So those people on the screen with her on that Zoom call are the politicians that are involved with this thing. I'm trying to figure out if that's Ro Khanna on the bottom left. I'm not sure if it's him or no, because he's not on the House Oversight Committee. It's another guy that I see on the news often. I'm thinking it might be him, but I'm trying to figure out who's in the other two squares. But either way, definitely remember this is what she has been telling to the politicians. This testimony was given on September 11th, but she recorded it herself and just released it recently.
Weight or be skinnier or whatever, and I would ignore her because it was really annoying. I grew
2 days ago, to be exact.
up with that lifestyle anyway. And so one of the things she said was, we'll get ice cream and look through Forbes magazine. So she was trying to get me to leave with her back to her house. And at that point we left, we went back to her house. And I remember the whole night she kept trying to go to sleep like immediately. And I was wired. And she was like, Molly, go to sleep. Molly, go to sleep. Molly, go to sleep. Molly, you're so annoying. Go to sleep. And I'm an insomniac. I don't sleep for days unless I'm on sleeping pills to begin with. I have so much trauma I just don't trust the world. So I don't know. Other people have come out and said you could have been drugged that night and trafficked that night and you would never know, because that's the thing, is they're drugging people. And that's the thing no one's talking about. They're not talking about the druggings. They're not talking about the contracts. So the next day I was home and Lisa called me again and said that she found an old guy. She said he was a poet laureate, Billy Collins. And he was the poet laureate of 2001 through Clinton. And she said he was an older man. I think he was in his 60s at the time, and I was in my 20s.
Some of this stuff was redacted, but the stuff about Trump specifically was redacted. Like that wasn't in the files where she was talking about that being a recruiting ground and all the things that she said about Mar-a-Lago. That was definitely probably redacted from her testimony. I don't even think the testimonies were released at all, come to think of it. Yeah, because that's one of the things that people are really looking for is the testimonies.
And she said he really wanted to meet you. He's looking for a wife, not a girlfriend. He's looking for a wife, and that he lives at the Colony House on Palm Beach Island, and he has an apartment there, and it's worth a couple $1 million. This is all the stuff she was telling me. And then she was also telling me before with the Kurt stuff, and now with this guy, that I would have to sign a contract with Madam Maxwell, Madam Ghislaine, however she was referring to her as. And since I knew the name was Ghislaine, I figured it was French, and that's just what they called people. Like, it never occurred to me she was a madam. So, or that these contracts were these kinds of things. So Lisa told me with the poet laureate that he was looking for a wife, that I could live at his apartment, and it was a multi-million-dollar apartment on Palm Beach Island. And again, just taking all this in, I have zero interest in actually doing this stuff. So I tell my mom that I'm going to meet with this guy, just so she knows where I am and is aware. And she was very creeped out. She's like, Molly, why are you meeting with him? And I was like, I'm just so interested in what this is. And she was like, well, be safe. I think it sounds gross, but I'm glad I know who you're with, where you're at, and what's going on. So I meet with this guy, Billy Collins, at Colony House, which is a supper club at the time. JFK used to have an apartment there as well. So I go and I meet him there. I have dinner.
So this part is not super new, but I want to skip ahead to where, let's see, I put in a timestamp around 54 minutes. There's quite a bit more
would hang out or go to house parties. So
Because in that middle part that I skip, it was her talking about her recruiter and her trying to get back in touch with her recruiter, and how she pretended she didn't know her and hung up on her essentially. And it was kind of, it was a very, very long story, but it was not really that relevant to the case.
in my freshman year in high school, like I said, there was no gym allowed for every other kid other than the wrestlers and football players. So all the kids would go to the Jupiter gym, which I said again was next to the Jupiter Cineplex, the Jupiter movie theater. And I had only ever babysat as a job at that point, and I heard that they were hiring at the gym there for the daycare for the children for when like parents work. So I thought that was a great job for me, and it was an entry level, like really easy. You could only work I think 4 or 8 hours a week. That was it. And I was just gonna be working on the weekends in the morning, and you got a free gym membership. Even if you just worked those tiny little hours, you got a free gym membership, which my parents were not gonna pay for one. It was not cheap. So I got a free gym membership. So I started hanging out there all the time. My brother had a car at the time, so he would drive me, or my parents would drive me in the morning to go work in the daycare. So one morning I was there and I worked in the daycare, and then there was like really no one in the gym. I used to have to go in pretty early on the weekends to go. And then it was kind of dead as like, it was just mostly adults there dropping off their kids and then, going on their day. It wasn't mostly kids at that hour. So the gym was pretty empty. I had finished my shift. I had on a staff shirt that I worked there, and I had taken it off. And I usually dressed incredibly modest, but my mom was, saying, you should take off more of your clothes and kind of see what body parts you're working at the gym so that you can see results and you can see what you're exercising and using. So I decided to do that. I had a sports bra on, and I had the short shorts, the spandex shorts. And I took the shirt off, and I was up by the glass windows of the gym. So when you come to the gym, there's like a circular area that they would check you in. And then the daycare was off to the left when you came in. And to the right, there was all this cardio stuff up by the main windows. And then there was gym equipment in the back, and then more cardio all the way in the back. So I wanted to be up by the window because no one was really there. And like I said, I don't like being in places where there's no people in a back area. So I went up to this area and I was working out there. I can't remember what machine I was on because it had to be low impact. All my doctors were like, you got to be low impact with your EDS, with your dislocations and all this stuff. So I was on this machine. I took my shirt off, and I think I was reading a book or something. I'm not quite sure what I was doing on the machine. And I saw out of my peripheral vision, because I'm always looking at my peripheral vision as a trauma survivor. I'm always scanning my environment. I very rarely am looking with my eyes. I'm looking with peripheral all the time. So I see these two women walk up, and they're clearly talking to each other. And they both walk up, and they're walking by me. And then Ghislaine looks in the window and stares right at me. She cups her hands around her face, and she stares right at me. And as she does that, the other woman, who I believe was Ava Dunn, it looked like her. I have pictures of her. She was dressed like her. Her mannerisms were like her as well. And the two of them then split at that point. Ava looked at her, looking at me, and then basically walked off at that point, which was very weird to me because I saw them clearly conversing and talking like they were friends. So then I was used to being scouted as a kid. I had very blonde hair as a kid, naturally very blonde hair as a kid. I used to get targeted all the time for modeling. My dad did not want me to do the modeling. I was not interested in the modeling stuff. So I was used to people coming to me with offers of these things. So she comes in, she talks to the desk, and I can see her basically saying, I'm not interested in a gym membership. I just want to talk to this girl. She points over to me, and they let her in. And she walks over to me, and she says, hey, I'm trying to remember how she introduced herself. I think she gave me a business card, and she said her name. She said, I'm Ghislaine Maxwell, and I'm a model scout. And I remember looking at the card and being like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to pronounce that name. I hope she doesn't ask me to. This is one of the things I was thinking of, being polite and, trying to be professional even as a child. So she goes on to tell me, she says, have you ever modeled before? And I said, yeah, I have. And she goes, oh, I can tell you have the look. And then she asked how old I was. And I said 14 or 15. And this is when she said, oh my gosh, you could so easily pass for 18. What does that have to do with modeling? Like I said, I had 3 legitimate
That's definitely a creep ass thing to say.
agents after this. And
Towards the end of this, in about like 10-15 minutes is when she really starts popping off with some wild shit. Talking about how Israel killed Charlie Kirk and how they were doing some kind of sci-fi stuff at Zorro Ranch. I forget exactly how she described it.
And I was never told I needed to look 18 for something. You never have to pass for 18 to be in modeling. So that was red flag number 1 when she said that. I didn't know why she even mentioned that. And then she offered me, and she said, well, what are you looking to do? And I wasn't sure. I was very young at the time. So she said, well, are you interested in modeling for Victoria's Secret? And no, I was not. I thought that was like the next step to Playboy. not interested. And I was very developed. I have a very large chest, and it developed starting in 4th grade. So she tells me that she can get me into Victoria's Secret, and that she paints the picture of, she says it will be Victoria's Secret's international flights, international, what did she say? International travel. She said traveling internationally and massages. And I'm thinking this whole time, oh my God, wow. So I'm going to be flying internationally. They're going to be massaging me before I do runway. Like, wow, that sounds amazing. But I was not interested. So it was going in one ear and out the other. And I was just kind of shining her on, told her I'd call her. I never even told my parents she approached me because I didn't want my mom to even pursue it. I was not interested. I remember my mom at one point asking if I would ever do Playboy. And I was like, fuck no. And she's like, okay, good. You know, because some people get their career that way. So my mom was born in the Midwest, my dad from Hollywood, and they clashed all the time. My mom had rose-colored glasses on. My dad was always talking about human trafficking in the industry. My mom they fought all the time. My dad is now deceased, but he was my biggest protector, and he knew what was going on and kept me very safe. Whereas my mom was my mom manager. She signed me up for everything. She told me she lived vicariously through me, that I had got all these opportunities. She was so impressed with them all, and that she never got opportunities like this and was basically living vicariously through me, which gave her a blind spot in protecting me a lot of the time. So she left the gym. I had her card. I never called her. I had her card in my modeling portfolio for the longest time. And then when I went to Florida State, my ex-boyfriend stole one of my modeling portfolios and threw it in the dumpster after we broke up. So that the card was in there. But I was able to meet someone.
Some of these stories are like big deviations, but there are really, really important elements in here that I don't think have been public before.
Who's also part of the network. She was trafficking drugs for Epstein at the same time. And I'm not gonna
Like this trafficking drugs for Epstein. This is another. I feel like we've heard bits and pieces about this before, but not a ton.
say her name. I'm not gonna say her name. I will at some point once I talk to her because she's very scared. Her grandfather, just to put into perspective, was one of our president's what was it? Like right hand man, spiritual advisor, like right hand man, something.
I know the name. I can look it up. I know the last name. But it was in
She's like saying she won't name the person and then accidentally doxing them right now.
Yeah.
Part of Reagan's cabinet.
Yeah, it was part of Reagan's cabinet. And
If they sold drugs for Epstein, the statute of limitations is up for selling drugs, not for others.
One of his advisors, one of his top advisors. So she was born into it also. She said she used to traffic drugs. She didn't know what was going on. She just thought she was just trafficking stuff. Also, she was a bodyguard for Paris Hilton.
Does not have the looks, but they put her to good use.
Oh yeah, no,
That's
she's
the
not a
thing.
looker. She is a big husky woman that would yell. So she was like basically Paris Hilton's bodyguard, which we ran into Paris Hilton on the way to the party, that Epstein party. She was on Clematis Street. She was on, she walked by with an entourage. And I remember saying to Lisa, oh my God, is she going to the party? And Lisa said, no, she doesn't go anymore, but her brother still does. So we'll probably see him there. And then I believe that that girl that I know who ran drugs and whose grandfather was an advisor for Reagan, she claims that she was likely there that night, that she was likely the bodyguard, because there was a woman in the front, a big girl, who was saying, get out of the way, Paris Hilton's walking through. And I remember going, I'm not getting out of the way. First of all, I'm handicapped, I don't move fast.
That's her.
And it's absolutely her. So she's also seen Ghislaine Maxwell handing out cards at the mall, trying to recruit people, and she would intervene, saying, don't reach out to her. Like she knew something weird was going on in that respect. So she and I have been talking. I've been in trauma therapy weekly now for about 4 or 5 years at this point. I've tried to be in therapy before. I get stuff like, well, you seem to be handling it okay. And I'm not. I mean, it's just very inexperienced people. This is like the first time I've ever had someone who's actually listening and understanding, and I'm actually getting somewhere. She's going to be part of the trial. And also that girl is now seeing her, that the Reagan connection girl. She's now going to be seeing my same therapist. She was very glad.
That's a very good point. If they were involved with Iran-Contra, which we know they are, and Lex Wexner was involved with the mafia in Ohio, then the drug running thing is definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Of course, with drugs, it's like, you know, that really just shows hypocrisy. It's not really as damaging as the other stuff that they're doing. But yeah.
I found someone who could actually help with these things and not gaslight or not Baker Act whenever you speak up about these things. So she actually has her first appointment today, right now, with my therapist.
Amazing.
So I'm very, very happy about that. So I think that's about it for the information that I know. I mean, there's obviously more. The royal family reached out to me.
Richie.
Yeah, I was gang stalked and harassed, by Virginia and Maria, and then fixers that, are trying to intimidate. I'm not easily intimidated. I've fought back verbally my whole life. Like I said, I was on the debate team, and I loved arguing, and I love discussion. I love discourse. I love getting to the truth of things. And if people call that arguing, then okay, then you're arguing. I see it as let's both put our
That's actually what my whole next video is about. Like the next full length video that I'm working on for the channel is all about the CIA smuggling drugs from like the Italian connection way back to Gary Webb, to Afghanistan, to the heroin in Vietnam, and all of the times that the government was involved in all of that. I'm hoping I can have it done in a few weeks. But now that I learned some new video editing techniques, it might take me a little bit longer.
truths out and get somewhere and see where the overlaps are. So I think that's about it, other than the royal family reached out. It was Antonia Marshall. She reached out first, which is Fergie's assistant. She reached out first. They asked, I have all the screenshots for this as well. They asked if Prince Andrew's spin doctor, Mark Gallagher with Pagefield, could speak to me. And I didn't trust any of it. I knew he was a spin doctor. I knew they were just trying to, because Prince Andrew's still a problem. He's still a massive problem. I just think he's low-hanging fruit for the network to be the scapegoat. They always need a scapegoat. So I called the FBI. They were very interested. They were more interested in the Prince Andrew stuff than anything else. I went to the FBI with all the information. They came out to me. I told Mark Gallagher in a text. I said, I only want to talk to you if you understand that this is bigger than Prince Andrew. This is bigger than Virginia. This is bigger than this little stuff. This 17-year-old being paid to have sex with a prince and then claiming rape. Like, I'm only going to talk to you if we're actually going to be real about this. And I could just tell he was a spin doctor. So I went to the papers, and he ended up getting fired. The Queen got really mad at him for his attempt. Yeah, so I got him to step down. So my newspaper accomplishes, I'm very proud of. I want that on my tombstone, that I took out Andrew's spin doctor. So I think that's it. And then I lost that detective to January 6th, and I never heard from him again. After I sent him a ton of information, files, screenshots from other victims. So that's where I am now.
I think we're definitely interested.
And right before she signs off, she like drops like wild shit on him.
Any other like documents or evidence you can send over?
Absolutely.
We definitely, because it can contribute to like everything that it's. I mean, this is when I say that the committee and all the offices involved are 100% taking this seriously.
Good.
And are treating it as the sex trafficking investigation that it should be.
Yeah, good.
And looking for other avenues of like where to go next and stuff like that. So anything that you can provide would be exceptionally helpful.
Okay, and I have it all organized, so I'll start putting it together in documents and sending them over to you guys. I have it all organized, literally thousands of images, but again, I have them all organized by subjects because I've been doing this for so long, and I'm always like, Molly, organize them or you're gonna be really pissed in the future. So I've been trying to organize them as I get them. One of the things I was gonna say, and I know you probably, I don't know, I'm not gonna make any judgments. The thing is I'm glad you guys are taking this seriously because they're trying to enslave us all. And I know that sounds scary, but it's a global trafficking, harvesting, wars.
This is where it starts. Hold on. Just so you don't miss that.
Seriously, because they're trying to enslave us all. And I know that sounds scary, but it's a global trafficking, harvesting, wars. Charlie Kirk yesterday, I absolutely believe that was Trump and Mossad. I don't know if you guys do, but I am convinced. But I'm just saying, my husband's like,
This is the Democrat House Oversight Committee on the other end of that screen. And she just said, as she's signing off the call with them, yeah, I definitely think that Trump and Mossad killed Charlie Kirk. Do you think so too? And then there's just silence.
Saying it's a global operation for blackmail and control, and they'll kill you. They want to get away with it all, and this is the victor writes the history and they write it wrong. And then I don't know if you guys knew Robert Maxwell used to own Macmillan Publishing. Those were our school textbooks. So they were mind controlling us in even that respect of our high school textbooks, our middle school textbooks are owned by Mossad operative, blackmail, trafficker. He's talking to the cat. I thought he was yelling at me again.
And then
But
she
I
just
wanted to
straight
share all
up
of that. I know it sounds
said that Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad right there, basically.
crazy, but okay, God, I'm glad you all are shaking your heads that it doesn't sound crazy. We got to get to the bottom of this, and I think we're in a really good position because I feel like even MAGA is crumbling harshly that they're finally seeing it and breaking apart. And I have a ton of hope. I was forced raised Catholic. I had to read the book of Revelation very young. So I was always like, yay, the meek inherit, we take them down, we bind the beast, we get 1,000 years of peace. These were all wonderful things. I try to bring that hope to other people too, that it is prophesied, whether you believe in God or not, it is prophesied that we win, that is hope, that the meek inherit. And that one of my hashtags is the meek speak. And I encourage the meek to speak. Please keep speaking. And because we're the rightful owners of the planet. And like I said, I feel like we're karmically protected. I feel like I'm karmically protected. I still have video cameras all over my house, learned how to shoot a gun, have bear mace, all the things that I need. But I just really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen, because I mean, my whole family thinks I'm crazy, even though they've witnessed so many things. I tried to meet with my brother a couple of weeks ago, and he called me to my face a pathological liar. And I was like, what's your proof? I have so much proof I'm not.
He's damaged.
Oh, my brother's very damaged. Yeah, he used to be a sniper in the military, so for the government. He was in Blackwater. So it's just been hard. I keep to myself. I talk to other victims and survivors. I take a lot of information in. I try to network with other people. I take screenshots. I organize it all to try to comprehend and make sense of everything. I'm so glad that my husband believes me. My son believes me. And they're very protective of me. Yeah, it's been very scary. And I definitely will go off the handle if I feel like people are not listening.
We've watched it all. Honestly, if I didn't watch
I feel like this is what therapists call, like, I think it's called like an open door confession or something like that. It's when the client is like walking out the door and then says something like really that needs to be discussed right as you're gonna leave.
it off, I would second guess you.
I know.
We've seen it happen. We've
Yeah.
seen everything.
I don't know if you can hear him. Yeah, okay, they can. Good. Yeah. And that's the thing. I feel like God blessed me with a beautiful witness. Yeah, I'm so happy to share the evidence with
Oh yeah, I mean, I know that the politicians on the other end, when they turned off that Zoom call, they were like, "Whoa, okay, there." You know, she probably lost them at the end of the call. I think, just because you know how they be.
you guys. I'll try to think of the best way to do it. Maybe I will invite you to a shared folder that they're already in. If you guys want to give me your emails, that way you can get on it right away. And like I said, they're all categorized as well. So
Is there any way that, and thank you for that, by the way, but do you use Dropbox by any chance?
yeah, we have Dropbox, and I use Google Drive, and you can share pictures in folders on your iPhone and stuff.
Yeah, I think Dropbox would probably be best,
And it's
especially
with
with
Google for federal devices. Technically, it's not like secure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if you guys
so,
want to send me a Dropbox links, otherwise we do have Dropbox. We pay an enormous amount of money a month for it, and we don't use it. So
Sure.
perfect timing. We'll finally use it, and we have a decent
I'll
amount of storage
silence
on
you.
it. My husband's gonna go cancel it and silence me. So yeah, we do have Dropbox, and it has a good amount of space on it. Even if I put them on there and take them off after you guys download them, we can do that too. Because like I said, it's a ton. It's a ton. So yeah, I will start uploading those, and if you guys
I think
give me
that
your
might be
emails-
it. That the rest of them is just doing logistics about sending files. But let's take a look at her article real quick before we get off of here. This is what she put out a couple months ago, and just to check testimony online, that was 2 days ago. So that was what we currently watched. So she's talking about honeypot contracts, arrangements designed to trap young women just over 18 into becoming wives, handlers, or long-term assets. This wasn't about romance. It was about power, control, and keeping the machinery of trafficking running. And this was what I think somebody in the chat was saying earlier about how Melania likely has one of these contracts. And it seems plausible for sure. The setup was always the same: lure a girl with promises of money, status, or protection, pair her with a wealthy addict, an aging celebrity, or a powerful man who needed her, then lock her in place with marriage, dependency, and silence. I was offered 2 of these contracts in my early 20s. The first offer came through Kurt Schmidt, the guy that she described on the boat and everything, the son of Campbell's Soup executive family. Yeah, she described that quite a bit in the she met him on a yacht floating in the Atlantic. And this was the guy, we looked at him during the stream. So this is part 2, the poet laureate's wife. The second man Lisa Ghislaine Villeneuve tried to sell me to was to the poet laureate Billy Collins. And when I met him at the supper club on Palm Beach Island, he had on a hat just like this, fascination with straw hats. Yeah, and so the woman that she kept on talking about, that was her I guess, superior in the chain of command uh, within Epstein's organization, is the person who was trying to sell her to these men, basically. The following day, the recruiter arranged a dinner with poet Billy Collins at the Colony House on Palm Beach Island. I had no idea who he was. I only told my mother that Lisa was setting me up with some poet and that I wanted her to know where I was in case I disappeared. My mother later tried to explain who Collins was. She wasn't entirely sure what was happening, but she knew Lisa. She used to call her Loony Lisa because we didn't know what to make of her. Uber rich, very strange, and 2 or 3 years younger than me. So yeah, that's interesting. So that the girl was younger than her that was actually ordering her around and stuff. One of the first things she said to me was chilling. There's no trust no one here. They'll use it against you, and the orderlies will drug and you in your sleep. At the time, I didn't take her seriously. I thought she was likely disturbed, even paranoid. I don't know, like, yeah, you gotta take it. I mean, I'm not blaming, but that's that's a warning you should definitely, in those circles especially. But I was also saddened by her story. Let's see. So this describes the situation of meeting him. Over dinner, he painted a picture. I could live there with him, be his wife, his muse. I could perform in the cabaret surrounded by wealth and influence, as long as I agreed to disappear into the Gilded Age. The only reason I even went was because I wanted confirmation. I needed to see with my own eyes if what I'd kept surviving was actually a real big, rich, blatant network of trafficking operating right under our noses, tied to the companies we grew up with and the political affiliations we were told to trust. My father and even some talent agents in high school had warned me about it. With Collins, it wasn't a love story, it was a grooming contract dressed up in candlelight. Colony Hotel. Tanku steered with the. What's this? In 2001, Roger Everting installed a supper club featuring cabaret performances in the. Okay. I guess this is just kind of confirming what was going on at that time in her story. For me, there was only two men ever met through this system, Kurt and Collins. After that, I got as far away as I could. Lisa kept circling back for over a year, trying to pull me in again, but I refused. Looking back, I believe many of the women positioned around these networks weren't just victims. Some became contract wives or handlers themselves. I suspect both Erica and Melania fell into that category. Erica. Erica who? That's the first time she doesn't give a last name. And this isn't new. Let's see if anybody has it. I was wondering, Kirk. That's what I was thinking. I wasn't sure if that was that might be the insinuation. Yep. Okay. That's I definitely see that being a possibility for sure. And this isn't new, this kind of arrangement, women used as shields, wives, and gatekeepers for corrupt men, has been going on since the dawn of time. It's the literal theme of the Bible, God trying again and again to destroy the elite eugenics projects for control and power. That's an interesting take, while they keep rebuilding them under new disguises. Honeypot contracts are just modern versions of the ancient playbook, whether it's a Campbell soup heir, a celebrated poet, an influencer, or a leader of a nation. The mechanics remain the same, pairing power with a woman whose role is to stabilize, conceal, and extend the system, whether they really want to or not. Wow. That is pretty wild. This is my first time coming across her. What's she trying to describe here? In this photo, I'm not sure. But let's see if she had anything else to say. Before we leave tonight, let's check back up on that Sasha page, because remember last night we found out that that guy used some kind of LiDAR situation um, to find this property that Sasha described, and this is a property that was owned by Les Wexner. And of course, I guess co-owned by Epstein, who was the executor of his will, or executor of his estate, rather. So yesterday we had just found this like hours after it came up. I wanted to see if there was any developments because this person says that they were going to update with some maps in a few days. So this is the property right here, which Sasha Riley, the one of the most recent survivors of Epstein, young boy who has come forward since and has named a lot of people. We've gone over that in the past couple days. Doesn't look like there's any updates there, though. See if there's anything else. I looked at Sasha's social media accounts earlier, and there hasn't been anything in the past day. Updated discussions with, yeah, it looks like this Mary Lynn Hasbrook. Somebody was asking about her. I guess they're looking through the timeline here. I think that this story is starting to break through to the politicians and stuff, and the mainstream media, even though I haven't seen it pop up anywhere except for it's still definitely going viral online for sure. Let's see anything on the Epstein page here. Giant version of Epstein card, yeah. Still waiting on more updates. I mean, I think most of the things are going to come from the estate and the survivors at this point, because they're doing everything they can to block this. However Trump is implicated in this, it's bad for him. So it is going to be pretty crazy when it comes out, because it is eventually. It's going to at some point, even if he stays past the election by some kind of authoritarian means, it's going to happen sometime. Yeah. I think I might be out of topics for today, but I do have this interesting. I also have collected a whole bunch of ICE stuff, but we'll save that for another day, because I'm sure there'll be larger updates for me to cover. But look at this one. We've seen over 1,000% increase in assaults on ICE officers, 8,000 verbal assaults on them, this guy says. Rep Michael McCall.
This is a very volatile situation. We've seen an over 1,000% increase in assaults on ICE officers, 8,000 verbal assaults on them. 7 out of 10 of these arrests are criminal aliens. And if you look, this is a
that last stat is incorrect, and they've been getting called on that every time they throw that out. I got one more short, funny one. Like, this one's good.
Humans and dinosaurs there's no pictures of humans and dinosaurs at the same time.
Well, there's no pictures before 1880.
Dude's like, there's no pictures of dinosaurs? Yeah, they didn't have cameras back then, bro. You missed when our talked about Zorro Ranch. Yeah, when is that? When was that? Is it coming up? Hold on. Let's go back to it and see if it's at the very end.
Yeah, I can connect everyone on an email thread and get all that moved in. And feel free to keep reaching out to me, or if there are others that want to be connected, can reach out to any of us, my office.
I'll find out. A lot of them are very
We'll always
scared.
coordinate.
Well, the problem is a lot of them they're isolated. They don't have any kind of husband or family. They're ostracized. They're alone. They're terrified. So they're constantly in their psychosis, and they're very, very scared to trust anything. You know, Democrats too, because it is both sides. So people are super scared, but they're very inspired by my bravery. They seem to like, if I'm the liaison, they're like, we trust you, and therefore we trust what you trust. And so I will definitely put out a call to my survivor friends and say, hey, I found a path if you guys want to start walking down it and giving information and stuff.
Yeah, and we can always have meetings where like the cameras are off or like whatever they
that
need to
person.
protect,
Okay, I'll let them know.
like confidentiality.
I'm checking up on the chat.
I would love for you guys to talk to the Canadian survivor. I would love for you to talk to the Canadian survivor. She was targeted as a child. She was drugged constantly, and they bragged about her constantly. They bragged to her while she was in and out of consciousness constantly. She knew that Trump was supposed to be president, that was all orchestrated. I know it all sounds like weird conspiracy, but again, this is a satanic network that actually does rituals and stuff and uses satanic programming and satanic theories. Trump was born on a satanic blood moon. So that's another reason that
I didn't realize that she continued to go off when they were talking about sending files back and forth.
they want him.
Thanks for letting me know.
And then Ghislaine Maxwell was born on Christmas Day, which is another satanic holiday. Because, according to the Bible, Jesus was not born on December 25th. He was likely born today, 9/11. So, according to the Bible, he was born in September, mid-September, early mid-September. So, so there's a lot of that conspiracy going around, and that's the hard part. Is there's, it's really hard to just want to see that through or prove it or unprove it or whatever. And this is exactly how they get away with it again. Is no one's gonna say we're Satanists. No one's gonna, they go on TV shows or Oprah or whatever these shows were before, and they talk about them, but they don't do anything. So they platform them. So we've seen it. We've talked to victims. We know victims have said that they've been born into families, much like my recruiter, I believe, was born into it. And I was not, thank God. I was not born into it. And I don't have an NDA. I mean, this is another reason they won't speak to me. They don't want to talk to me. Nancy Grace interviewed me in 2021, never aired it. I told her all of this. I named Johns. I mentioned Trump, and she's a Trumper, Fox News. So, but yeah, she's set up. They hounded me for an interview. The producers wouldn't stop hounding me. They picked me up in a town car. I had my son go with me. They did hair and makeup. Yeah, I have the emails for all of this too. They did hair and makeup. I went to a satellite studio in Orlando and did the interview with Nancy Grace. And yeah, she never aired it. I named my the Johns that they tried to sell me to. I talked about the contracts. I said that Virginia and Maria were attacking me and that it was very strange. And I talked about the recruitments and my recruiter and all of that. Obviously, Trump was involved. Never aired it.
They didn't air it. Then you were attacked again.
Oh yeah, didn't air it. And then of course I'm attacked again over and over and over for even trying to peek my head out. I got rid of my Twitter account. It was just so insane and scary there. Now I just do it for news reporting. I'm like, I feel like Twitter gets breaking news and then it trickles over to Instagram. The truth of the matter trickles to Instagram, and then I don't think Facebook gets anything. I think that's just boomer heaven over there, and they're just not getting anything.
Yeah, with the Satanism thing, I think there's multiple different definitions for Satanism that can be described to people, and whether it's LaVeyan or Christian or atheist variety, and a lot of times people ascribe Satanism to things that are just sadistic, and yeah, so it is a very murky term.
Twitter is for breaking news.
Exactly. Same. It is a fifth dimension of hell, but it is breaking news.
Unfortunately. Well, thank you again. This has been, powerful and upsetting, but necessary. And, just really want to thank you for sharing your truth.
Thank you. Thank you for responding.
Of course. Oh my gosh.
You're the first one.
Thank you for
and, always good to hear from
my husband says thank you.
Jay Megan highlighted that part, didn't she? So just so I don't miss it. Let's see. Is this the one 6 hours ago? I think, right?
So what I have uncovered over the last...
Let's see. Is this the one? This is the one y'all are telling me about, right? No, I think it was this one. No. Was it this one?
So what I have uncovered over the last couple of days has the potential to absolutely upend the reality of the Epstein case as we know it. In order to understand the connections that I'm about to make, we all have to go back in time to this man, Scott Rothstein. For legal purposes, as always, this is all alleged and my own opinions. Now, in the 2000s, Scott Rothstein was a prominent Florida lawyer. When he started out his career, he was an employment and labor lawyer, eventually breaking off, starting his own firm known as RRA, and extended to a lot of different areas. The man was wildly successful and very politically connected. Here he is with the governor, Charlie Crist, who in 2008 will appoint Rothstein to a judicial nominating commission responsible for selecting judges. And you'll see why that's insane soon. But by 2009, he would be arrested in one of the biggest Ponzi schemes, accused of stealing $1.2 billion from his clients. So how did he get there? Rothstein built his business model on extortion and blackmail. He would go after high-profile defendants and essentially stalk them until he got dirt on them. Then after he would get a settlement from these people, he would use it to go get investors, telling them that he was representing victims in a sexual harassment or a whistleblower case and they needed cash immediately. He would then make fake bank websites, forge signatures of federal judges on fraudulent court orders, and then the investors would buy the rights to these confidential settlements. Now, on the surface, it seemed like a pretty standard Ponzi scheme that was being run here, but the more I dug into it, the more the warning lights were flashing in my face. When the recession hit from 2007 to 2009, Rothstein's investors suddenly disappeared. His investors were hounding him for returns. Nobody knows how Rothstein got onto the FBI's radar, but on November 3rd, 2009, they raided his office. The days leading up to the raid, he was sending messages to other lawyers that he knew asking what countries did not extradite to the US or Israel. The week before
That's always the best question to be asking.
the raid, he sent $16 million to someone in Casablanca, Morocco, and he went on the run. Now, in between going on the run and when the FBI raided his office, he sent a self-unaliving note to a bunch of people. Personally, I don't think he sent that. I think that was a warning to him if he didn't come back to the United States, what would happen to him. Because on November 3rd, he came back to the US. They RICO charged his ass, and at first he pled not guilty. He quickly reversed.
She's good at putting this stuff together for sure. Like making those connections of like that was probably a threat. That's a good inference there.
That to a guilty plea. Obviously, he was denied bond, but in furtherance of his plea agreement, he was actually put into witness protection program while in prison. Even though he was clearly cooperating with the government, he still got a 50-year prison sentence. I could go more into this, but I'm just going to speed through it at this point. Basically, Rothstein was cooperating with the feds. He was trying to get his sentence reduced, but in 2011, he lied about something to them, so it was taken off the table. In 2018, he petitioned the courts to help reduce his sentences because he said the government wasn't upholding their end of the deal for his cooperation. However, it was a no-go. I know this is tedious, but I promise you we have to get through this in order to get to my point. Because Rothstein is going to be a hidden linchpin that's going to pull all of this together. The early days of Rothstein's career was very hard to track down, but I eventually found this, unfortunately hidden behind a paywall. Prior to 1993, Rothstein worked directly with Bill Larache at the then called Milberg Weiss law firm. Bill Larache was once a prominent civil attorney, most notably winning $7 billion in the Enron case. You know, the Enron case where Kathy Rumler was the lead prosecutor. Shortly after the Enron case, however, he pled guilty to obstruction of justice and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Why? Because he admitted to running a kickback scheme where essentially he would go and court plaintiffs for civil lawsuits and they would.
That happens all the time with those big scams that end up having to go to court.
Pay people to not only be the plaintiffs, but for people who recommended these plaintiffs. These schemes were not only hidden, but it was proven that the plaintiffs were lying under oath about receiving compensation for their roles in this. It seems to me that Rothstein took that business model and decided to sprinkle in some trafficking. Because in 2011, in a 10-day secret deposition, Rothstein admitted to keeping a condo across the street from his law firm for escorts. I think it's going to become very clear soon that the escorts were not actually escorts. He was spending $50,000 to $60,000 a month to keep these women across the street for him, his friends, and his business associates. When I went to go try and find this testimony here, oh, looks like it's been scrubbed. I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that the judge granted the government's motion to prohibit it from being videotaped, citing serious harm and security reasons that are unusual in nature. What? So the red flags were already in.
Yeah, that's intelligence for sure.
full effect for me when I found out that Rothstein actually adopted a son. Now, this is where it's going to get real weird real quick, folks, because the orphan that he adopted was actually a client of his that he represented in a lawsuit when his father, Charles Blade Jr., was accidentally shot in the head by his cousin, Brian Blades, who was a linebacker on the Seahawks. Honestly, it did seem like it was an accident, but Brian Blades was charged and ultimately convicted of manslaughter. Weirdly enough, a judge would actually overturn that guilty verdict, stating there was not enough evidence, even though he admits on the 911 call as he's crying that the gun accidentally went off and he shot his cousin in the head. And then weirdly enough, an appellate court backed the ruling. It should be noted that Brian Blades not only played for the Seahawks, but two of his brothers played for the Detroit Lions while his nephew played for the Redskins. So Scott Rothstein supposedly represents this 11-year-old child and other family members in the civil suit against this NFL football player, adopted him, and then gave him that money when he was 18. Now, I'm not buying it at all, because Blades would not even tell the reporter when he legally adopted him. But this whole story is just weird because Blades says that he did a good job raising me, yet Charles said that he never lived with Rothstein.
All this stuff is so crazy between all these people. It's like everything is fake.
It seems like this kid wasn't even a part of this lawsuit to start with, because there was also the mother, the sister, the ex-wife, two more kids. So it's really convenient that that manslaughter conviction was overturned, because now that he wasn't going to prison, he was now able to sign a $4.5 million 3-year contract with the Seahawks. Then Scott Rothstein got very invested in the Miami Dolphins Dan Marino's foundation. There were lots of parties he would take that little boy to, whose owner, Stephen Ross, is not only a real estate mega millionaire billionaire developer, but is directly related to doing business with the Deutsche Bank, as well as the University of Michigan, because he has a school named after him there, who had their own abusive Dr. Larry Nassar type scandal. And the university received blowback.
Like, that was one of the things last night with the Ohio thing. I'm not sure if I remember it or not, but also there are so many of these sports programs or coaches or whatever at these colleges that end up being mega creeps, and it seems to have like a systemic kind of thing about it. You know what I mean? I get them mixed up all the time.
Because they found out recently that Steptoe and Johnson was hired as their independent investigators into the allegations. And as we know, a bunch of those lawyers not only worked for Epstein, but Reed Weingarten was one of his besties. Now, I tell you all this just to show you how interconnected these worlds all are, because we're seeing a very clear pattern in very different ways all across different factions of this ring. Because when I heard that Rothstein actually adopted a little black boy, I immediately thought of the little black boy that Mike Johnson adopted. You know, the one he claimed to have saved by adopting him, but then actually never legally adopted him. The one he met through a Christian youth home at age 14 and seemingly abandoned him and sent him to Florida, where he went through a
Mike Johnson, like the Speaker of the House. I've heard about this, but wow, yeah, that I didn't hear all of these details.
String of petty crimes, and yet somehow stayed out of prison. I highly recommend you pause and read this one case of his. Kind of like how also Matt Gaetz adopted a brown boy, but not legally. A boy whose PayPal he used to send payments for those trafficking victims. A boy who's now in the Air Force stationed in Germany, like Lindsey Graham was, who also adopted his sister at 13 under weird circumstances. And guys, I haven't even gotten to the meat and potatoes of all this. I haven't gotten to the point of this video. This is all just necessary backstory for what I'm going to tell you in the next one. Because now that I've tied Epstein survivor lawyer Jack Scarola directly to Growing Together, the teen rehab center that Virginia Roberts was allegedly trafficked out of, she writes a whole chapter about it in her book, but never directly implicates them in it. Not only was Jack Scarola on the board of trustees for the entire iteration of Growing Together, but he fought legally in court to keep children from being released so that CPS could interview them out of the presence of the counselors. Not only did he represent the employees of Growing Together in several lawsuits, he was able to argue in court to keep the children locked up against their will, because before, children who didn't want to stay there could just leave through the front door. He's the guy who fought in court to make it legal for the staff to physically restrain the kids from leaving. Now, Bradley Edwards, the first lawyer to bring a lawsuit against Epstein, worked for Scott Rothstein from April of 2009.
That's sketch. Whoa.
Until no.
That makes you think more about what the last survivor just said, because I'm not sure if she was involved with this lawyer, and it seems like there's
November when he was arrested. But that's nothing new. In fact, Epstein and Bradley Edwards were suing each other back and forth for years, with Epstein just saying, well, Bradley Edwards is only doing this in order to further fund the Ponzi scheme. Bradley Edwards wasn't even working for Epstein during the first lawsuit. And Epstein's lawsuits against Scott Rothstein and Bradley Edwards.
Yeah, like I don't even have the speed turned up on her, and she, yeah,
were all eventually dropped or thrown out by the courts. Then I started digging hard into Bradley Edwards. What I have discovered about Bradley Edwards is going to change your perspective of everything. What if Epstein was right? Because survivors have started reaching out to me. And suddenly things that have never made sense before are falling into place and clicking. Because I know I've had questions that I've been afraid to ask, afraid to breathe a whisper of doubt. And if this video disappears on you, don't worry, I'm going to slice them all together and put it on my page on YT.
Oh, she hit us with the cliffhanger. Give her a subscribe. She's killing it. One of y'all were telling me about this. I never heard of this. I had this tab open. I forgot about it. The Donald Trump helicopter crash situation. After a chartered helicopter crashed and killed 3 of Donald Trump's top executives in 1989, the real estate mogul was distraught. These were 3 fabulous young men in the prime of their lives. Yeah. He always talked like a lunatic. No better human beings ever existed. We are deeply saddened by this devastating tragedy. A few months later, Trump told New York Magazine that the crash had shocked him, showing him how short and fragile life is. The event, he said, helped convince him that he should leave his wife, Ivana. Wow. But did Trump cheat death that day? Sources say Trump himself was scheduled to be on the flight, but decided at the last minute that he was too busy to leave New York. United Press International reported that day following the tragedy. Other outlets reported the same claim from the Trump camp, including Long Island's Newsday. At least one biographer, former Village Voice reporter Wayne Barrett, believed the claim was a PR stunt. In his book, Trump, the Greatest Show on Earth, Barrett wrote that Trump did not hesitate to use the crash to his personal advantage. He planted stories suggesting that he had almost boarded the charter copter himself, though he'd never ridden to Atlantic City on that one, trusting only his personal Puma helicopter. So yeah, I could see that. Just like, he probably got hit by shrapnel of a teleprompter or something that clipped his ear, and then he said he got shot and then played it up, I'm sure. Very similar situation. I mean, we don't have confirmation of that. Yeah, I think I want to do a deep dive on the Erica Kirk situation, because like I said, I've witnessed influencers be blackmailed by their friends and the people that they have allowed into their companies. I watched it happen like 2 or 3 years ago for some guy that I was ghostwriting for. And they totally ruined him because he didn't go along with their blackmail thing. And they did release information on him. It wasn't anything that was illegal. He was having an affair, basically. And I think he was eating diet pills, but because he was, he wasn't somebody that talked about that kind of stuff. I guess he was religious or whatever. So they were able to use that against him. But I've seen that shit happen, and I think it's a lot more common than people realize. And I've seen a lot developing on that whole thing that really makes it look like there's a lot more going on than yeah, wet wipes. I mean, cringe beyond belief. You couldn't get me to snort that much Adderall. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that there was definitely something going on with those pageants. And even she said it in the testimony there. She said that elite modeling agency that was owned by Trump was a trafficking front, as was Jean-Claude Sablanca's organization. So yeah, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the chat. We just finished the interview. I don't think I have anything else for today. Gonna be back tomorrow though. definitely, if you see any more developing on any of these things that I've been covering, send them to my social media pages that are listed on the YouTube channel, and I'll cover them on tomorrow's show. Marla Maples is under NDA. She was hosting them. Yeah, I think there's a lot more to dig into with the pageants. And that was one of Michael Cohen's thing too, was defending the fallout from that. I think that there's definitely something there. Yeah, J. Megan and Wolves of Finance are definitely. I haven't seen Wolves of Finance, but I'll have to check them out. Wolves just got a cease and desist from TPUSA for pointing out that their fraud is connected to an AZ politician. Oh, I got to look into that. Thanks for that tip. I check the chat constantly. It's just really, really easy to it's really easy to miss because of like I have to click out to another window to read something, and then I'll be reading something, and then there'll be some responses, and I'll click back to the stream, and then I'll have missed a whole bunch of stuff. You went to John Casablanca's modeling school? Really? Yeah, we get to get John Smallcreen, maybe Adreno with a little. Yeah, I should probably get like a phone or an iPad or something, or another screen to have it up. What was it that you were trying to tell me, Crown? If you could repeat again. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just catching up on everything. Yeah, nah, I appreciate it. It's been a good month. No, you're good, dude. No, don't worry. I appreciate it. I appreciate y'all being here, and I appreciate the feedback with helping me improve. Don't ever worry. Yeah, it was it related to the Rothstein thing, and yeah, I'll definitely I'll look through. But I ran across this earlier today. Potential corroboration of Riley's steak story. Is that the one with the doctor? I got into that a little bit last night, but if there's another one, definitely let me know about it. Yeah, I need to figure out something with that. Yeah, the Zorro Ranch being a baby farm, definitely. I have seen articles about that. There was actually confirmation of that through, I think, the Guardian. Zorro Ranch baby farm. I know she mentioned that offhand. Yeah, here it is. Epstein reportedly hoped to develop super race of humans with his DNA. Let's see. Oh, the one about Trump's name being wet wipes. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a possible. And people have talked. It is just such a bizarre thing. But we live in a very bizarre reality right now. Like, just look at what's going on around us. It's really crazy. It was Andy Biggs that was implicated in the Turning Point USA thing. Wow. Let's see. Epstein hoped to seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating women at his ranch in New Mexico. One of his properties were young women, including minors, one of his properties where young women, including minors, were allegedly abused, the newspaper reported in a major investigation. Though there is little evidence the scheme ever progressed beyond fantasy, prominent scientists, including the late Stephen Hawking, regularly attended dinners. See, like, they always have to qualify things, but I think I want to get into Julie Bryant's claims about the sci-fi element and how, because I think she had quite a bit to say on that. that whole thing, that there were like some kind of experiments taking place or something, and she woke up and they were injecting her with something. Epstein's field of study was labeled transhumanism, but was an updated version of eugenics. Lawyer Alan Dershowitz, who defended Epstein in 2008, has been named in a civil suit brought by Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre. Let me just catch up on the chat. Yeah. I have I can put my email out too for sure, or Telegram or Discord if you're on any of those. I can put those out. Yeah, Donald Barr's book is another one. I kind of want to actually. I tried to buy it, but it's very rare. You can't buy it. You can't even find it anywhere. It's extremely rare. I guess that's why they got it behind glass at the Dalton School. Yeah, let's see here. Everyone speculated about whether these scientists were more interested in his views or more interested in his money. On one occasion, Epstein held a lunch at Harvard's program for evolutionary dynamics. And there was one night where we went through the emails that he had with this other guy about their eugenics beliefs and all this insanity. So yeah, this was published, I think, before his death, maybe right after his death. Yeah, very interesting. Let me see if I could catch up on the chat here. Yeah, I'm definitely going to figure out a better situation with the chat. Slowly getting all the technical things in a row. Like you'll notice now I can actually stream in 1080 and stuff, and that things aren't constantly freezing on me like they were those first couple weeks. So that's definitely good. And then when the second video comes out, you'll see the difference between the Cold War video and the next one as far as editing goes, and the stuff that I've been able to pick up already with DaVinci has been pretty cool. So I'm definitely excited about that. Thanks for the tip on that too, because that has been a game changer with what's possible with that. But yeah, thank you. And I appreciate all the support and just hanging with me. It's been very motivating. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out with me starting this, but I'm very glad I did. It feels good to be back at it and kind of contributing to trying to make the world a better place again. I had to focus on myself for a while because I was not in a position to be doing the activism that I was doing. You know what I mean? And now I am. So I'm happy to be back at it. The podcast Dystopia Now did a 2-part series on Epstein's weirdness and eugenics and his desire to spread his genes as far as wide as possible. I'll definitely look into that. Oh, yo, thank you for that. I appreciate that. That's the first tip on the channel, iZombie. So much love for that. Yeah, Discord is tough. On Discord, I think my name is just John Vibes, but on Telegram, it's John G Vibes. If you message me on there, I get a lot of spam, but if you let me know you watch the YouTube channel, then you know, I'll definitely respond. So yeah, for sure. I will catch you tomorrow night, and yeah, if you see any cool topics, let me know. Thanks. Peace, y'all.